The board meeting will now come to order at 5 p.m. Good evening and thank you for attending the Albuquerque Civilian Police Oversight Advisory Board meeting today on Thursday, November 13th, 2025. Ms. Barilla, can I get a member roll call, please?
Xander Bolionitz.
Present.
Eduardo Budonaro.
Present.
Aaron Calderon.
Present.
Rowan Weimar.
Present.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You have a quorum.
Thank you, Ms. Barilla. Next order of business is the Pledge of Allegiance. All rise.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you. The next order of business is the approval of the agenda. Do any board members have any changes to the agenda? All right, then I make a motion that the agenda be approved as written. Can I get a second?
I second that motion.
Thank you, Vice Chair Calderon. Ms. Barilla, can I get a roll call vote, please?
Chair Bolionitz.
Approved.
Chair Bolionitz.
Approved.
Sorry, I didn't have my mic on. Member Budonaro.
Approved.
Vice Chair Calderon.
Approved.
Member Weimar.
Approved.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That motion passed unanimously.
Thank you, Ms. Barilla. The next order of business is the review and approval of minutes. Do any board members have any proposed changes to the minutes from October 9th, 2025? Nope. Nope. All right, then I make a motion that the minutes be approved as written. Can I get a second?
Second.
Thank you, Member Weimark. Ms. Barilla, can I get a roll call vote, please?
Chair Bolionitz.
Approved.
Member Budonaro.
Approved.
Vice Chair Calderon.
Approved.
Member Weimar.
Approved.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That motion passed unanimously.
Thank you, Ms. Barilla. The next order of business is the reports from the city departments. The first up is from APD, Internal Affairs Police Standards, IPS, Deputy Commander.
Good evening, Chair, honorable board members. My name is Paul Scotch-DePaul. I'm the Deputy Commander of the Internal Affairs Professional Standards Division. I'm standing in for Commander Ryan Nelson tonight. He had a personal issue that he is taking care of. I believe that you have been provided the October 2025 IAPS Professional Standards Monthly Report. I hope you had a chance to review that. If there are any questions regarding that particular report, I stand before you to answer those questions.
Board member, any questions? No? No questions. Thank you, Deputy Commander. I appreciate your time. All right. Next up, the next order of business is the Internal Affairs Force Division by Commander Scott Norris.
Good evening. I hope everybody's well. So for October 2025, seeing some of the same trends, one thing that's a little bit different, we've actually started to yield the results from redefining a show of force as a show of force and not just a use of force. But first, the vast majority of our levels of force were again level 2 uses of force, where the Southeast was the area command where we had the most uses of force within the city, followed by the Valley Area Command, which is in keeping with the past several months. The Northeast and the Southwest came in, not like it's a contest, but came in third this month with 4 uses of force for the month of October. So not much change in that. If you look at the uses of force from September to October, you'll see that we had a total of 53 uses of force in September and down to 38 in October. So we're looking at that to where we actually have a full month, a little over a month of where the special order where shows of force were now not being looked at as uses of force. So that's what we're attributing some of those lower numbers to. For force rate per 1,000 calls, 2.9 calls per 1,000 calls resulted in a use of force for the southeast, 0.8 in the southwest, and 1 in the university area. I also want to kind of draw your attention to the request last month was that we put the university area command in the report. So that has since been taken care of and done. As far as force rate per arrests for the southeast, we had roughly around 4 uses of force per 100 arrests in the southeast, followed by the university area, which was 3 arrests or 3 uses of force per 100 custodial arrests, and then the southwest was at 2.5. We saw a little bit of a change last month in the age range of the individuals that we use force against. It stayed the same in terms of individuals between the ages of 30 and 39, where we are engaging in more use of force encounters between that specific age group. But the second age group actually was between the ages of 40 and 49, where we ended up with 9 uses of force. 10 under the age group of 30 to 39, but that's something that we haven't really seen the age group of individuals between 40 and 49 really kind of come in kind of in second place there. So don't know what that's attributed to. Maybe it's we came into contact with more individuals around that age range, and obviously you have more exposure to individuals, there's a higher likely for a use of force depending on what that circumstance is. As far as behavioral health related or involved, 56% of those uses of force, there was no behavioral health component involved, and 13% of our uses of force, there was a documented behavioral health component. Alcohol or drugs, 45% of the individuals we got in the use of force with last month were under the influence of some sort of intoxicating liquor or drug, and 50% we did not detect any type of alcohol or drugs on board. So call types, that hasn't changed much. Suspicious persons or vehicles, we had 12 uses of force with regard to suspicious persons or vehicles. Those could either be generated through calls for service or on-site activity. The next would be family disputes, and followed by people who had active warrants. Unknown if those were felony or misdemeanor warrants, but they were active warrants, trying to take those individuals into custody. Empty-hand takedowns still remain our predominant tactic, I guess you could say, in types of uses of force. So as far as less lethal weapons or anything like that, those, I think our highest number was our 40 millimeter deployment, which we're at 6 out of all the uses of force of last month. As far as level 1 uses of force, we had 9 completed investigations, which took an average of about 13.9, about an average of about 14 days per use of force to complete. As far as level 2 uses of force, we had 48 completed investigations, took an average of about 82 days for those uses of force, those investigations to be completed. We are up 1 in terms of an out of policy use of force from the month from September to October. We had 1 in September, we had 2 in October, and 1 was in the southeast and 1 was in the southwest. And I will stand for any questions.
Board member?
Yes.
Did you mention shoplifting as a impetus for uses of force?
No, actually, what we have here, at least according to this report, let me look here. We don't have anything that's documented right now with uses of force related to shoplifting. It was wanted persons who had a misdemeanor warrant or a felony warrant. It was suspicious persons or vehicles, and it was family disputes.
Thank you.
Sure.
One thing that I'm kind of curious about here, because down on page 6 out of 7, that's where you're showing the shows of force, right? And then it seems pretty steady. And then last month, October, was basically double.
Right.
And so I'm just kind of curious if you can speak to that or not, or.
I can't, actually.
Okay.
I think I would need probably to see if that's an actual trend or if that's an outlier. Don't have enough data right now moving forward to see if that's a trend.
No, absolutely. I just want to at least call that out just to see that. I don't know if it's just the numbers being crunched and having to go back because this is new, but it's just something to keep an eye on is what I would think. So,
I will say this, one thing that when we have use of force investigators in IFD that are looking at these things prior to, like when shows of force were uses of force, we were able to actually, kind of review video at not a microscopic level, but really scrutinize the video and then interview the officer and determine whether or not it was a show of force. And there were a lot of times where we made the determination based off of, we have a deeper understanding of what a show of force is and what the policy says relative to maybe a patrol officer out on the street. And it may be, hey, I think I did, I'm not sure, but you know what, I'd rather err on the side of caution and say that I did and not get in trouble for not reporting that. So that could be a factor, but I don't have enough data right now.
nope, totally makes sense. And then with that, it actually popped up another question in my head, and the answer is probably I don't know. But so with these force counters, when you're showing the use of force, does that include the uses of force if it proceeded with a discharging of less lethal or a firearm, or is it independent of those? So
No, it includes everything because we have to account for every use of force that we use. So say, for instance, we have a situation to where we had an officer who got into use of force and the first tactic that they used was some sort of empty hand technique. And it was a use of force, but it was not successful in getting that person into custody. The officer had to then use another tactic, whether it be a less lethal weapon like a taser or anything like that. That would also count as a separate use of force. We look at it as one incident,
Right.
but we count each use of force separately. Does that make
right,
sense?
and that was getting to my point of should we break it down to say if there was a show of force and that was all there was, do we want to break that down as, hey, we were able to draw and that was enough to deter the individual, or it continued to escalate? I'm just curious from a data perspective, right? Because I think that'd be interesting to see of like, does showing a ECW 40 rifle or pistol, does that impact whether that continues to be just
Right.
those?
So
weapons get
one thing that we
discharged.
do is if there is a show of force that is preceded by a use of force, we get called out to investigate it anyway. We review the show of force. We log that show of force. If there is a show of force that is not, that precedes a non-force event, we don't currently capture like, hey, was this a de-escalation? Did the show of force de-escalate or prevent a use of force? So we don't currently do that now, but it's something that data analytics could possibly look into because we're compiling show of force data anyway.
Yeah, and that's more of a, is it escalating or de-escalating? Not that it should dictate whether you do, but it's just another interesting data point to look at, is what I was thinking of.
Okay.
So, any other questions? Commander Norris, thank you so much.
Sure.
All right, next order of business is the report from ACS Deputy Director Jeffrey Bustamante. With a very stellar-looking beard, man. It looks good today.
I just stopped shaving it at some point. Good afternoon, everybody. Excited again to be here, and I'll start with kind of our field update. Calls continue as expected. They did slow down a little bit from the summer and that high we had in July of 4,600 calls. That said, we are still getting about 3,000 to 4,000 every single month. A lot of those are same trends, dominantly a lot of unsheltered individuals, followed by wellness checks, welfare checks, and of course, like suicidal ideations and the rest. We have started our winter transportation program now on November 1st. We started that. Last year we did about 4,500 transports. The volume is not up at that level yet as expected. It's still been pretty warm, right? With that said, we are still doing those transports at night, and we are getting called out every night to do it. And you might have caught, we had pushed a press release recently. On their second night, they actually, as the transport was driving to a location, found somebody who had overdosed, was able to successfully administer Narcan, and then get referred back to the appropriate medical personnel. So we were really excited to be able to help that person. Beyond that, you know, it's really just settling into our new digs, so to speak, on the west side as well. Southwest Safety Center. Never hesitate to come out. I know I saw some of you there at the opening, but we're always happy to give you a tour as well. As another thing you might have caught recently, we are now partnering with CNM's Ingenuity program. This was a really exciting kind of next venture as we look at our training. Obviously, our peers in police and fire do exhaustive review and evaluation and development of their training programs, and we're really proud of what we've gotten to this point. But so to speak, how do you stay in first is to stay in first and keep setting that pace. And, you know, we didn't want to ease up on that. And CNM being a great partner who also is, you know, in the public safety space, but also really the Ingenuity program is a cultural appropriate fit for us. We're working with them to not only evaluate our training, including where are we efficient, where are we doing kind of a lot of training where we can probably pare this down to maybe 2 hours or what have you, and then going from there. And so we're really excited to begin in that partnership with them, and that'll of course be a multi-year partnership. Also to field in our street outreach program, and as a thank you to City Council, they approved an additional street outreach funding from the opioid settlement funds to support our work with the street outreach team, getting some of the highest acuity individuals on the street into housing. Our success rate is over 80% there, and we're talking about highest acuity, multi-year gunshot victims, things like that. We're getting in front of folks who really need that crisis stabilization, both medically and behaviorally. That's where we start. And then we go from there into housing and case manage them and walk them along with a series of partners, UNMH, the Veterans Integration Center, Vets for Pets, Animal Welfare, all of that. On another piece, our Violence Intervention Division continues to evolve and grow, continue the busy work, and one of the big priorities we're looking at, of course, is the intention to try and take our school-based violence intervention program to all high schools. It's something that we've been pretty transparent about our belief in its success. I mean, we do see amongst our kids and this is per our evaluation, we do work with an evaluator on that program, Apex Evaluation, and for their first major report, it reported an 86% reduction or 83% reduction in major offenses amongst the kids participating, and an 84% in minor. So 84% reduction. Major offenses are fighting, guns on school. You know, the big problems in the minor are disrespectful behavior, disruptive, things like that, ditching, stuff like that. So really proud of that. We also saw an increase in GPAs, increase in attendance. And I think I mentioned at a prior report that 5 of our 6 seniors in the program from last school year had graduated high school. We actually just got our 6th through. So we're really excited about that too. Outside of that, just final piece, Seasons of Nonviolence has officially kicked off with its first event. That was a trunk or treat at our facility. We had over 1,000 people there, which is over a doubling from last year. Really excited about that. And then this Saturday, we have a movie, Freebirds. You might have seen Zootopia. It's Freebirds. That was a pivot we had to make sure we did. For this Saturday at gates are 3, movie will start around 5. And then we'll roll into, we're doing some food gathering, and we'll do a giveaway event, you know, to the community to help families in need right now, of course, and a handful of other things. So I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you.
The location for the movie?
Balloon Fiesta Park, sorry, the east lot there.
Oh, nice. Wonderful.
Thank you.
Board members, any other questions?
No, thank you.
Mr. Bustamante, I appreciate your time. Thank you for the update.
Very much.
All right, the next order of business is the report from our city attorney, Lindsay Rosenberg.
Evening, Board. Since we last met last month, the city has filed been part of 3 additional lawsuits against the current Trump administration. So I'm going to walk through those 3 and what they each are. 2 of them are not necessarily directly APD related, but I still thought it'd be of interest to the board to hear about this. The first is the RAISE grant, which is a lawsuit that the city filed against the Department of Transportation and the Federal Highway. This is the grant that's for the rail trail. And so that's just the city individually suing the administration in regards to that grant and the loss of that grant. The city then joined a number of other municipalities in suing the administration during the shutdown over the SNAP benefits. That I don't know what's going to happen with that now that the shutdown is no longer ongoing and the government is back, but I imagine there will still be, that will continue to be litigated to some extent. And whether recipients will get any back benefits, so to speak. And then the last one, and more directly related to all city employees. Last time I was here, I mentioned that there were potential changes to the public loan forgiveness program and that the city had put forward public comment to the Department of Education about that program. The rule change went forward and was published on November 1st. It will be going into effect July 1st of 2026, as I understand it. And so the city did join 5 other municipalities and other nonprofit organizations in suing the Department of Education over that rule change. And that is moving forward right now. I stand for any questions.
Thank you so much. Board members, any questions? No? I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Next up is the report from City Council by Council Services, Chris Sullivan.
Thank you, Board Chair, Board members, Chris Sullivan, Albuquerque City Council. The update that I have for you is at the October 20th City Council meeting, OC 25-49. It was the CPOA FY25 one-year objectives. That was on consent agenda, so it pretty much passed. They did not pull it off to discuss it, so the CPOA is doing well with their one-year objectives, getting them into council and letting them know what they're planning on. The other update that I have for you is hopefully next week, we're going to start interviewing the 2 applicants that we've vetted through the agency, the contract compliance officer, and council services staff. So they'll be meeting with the counselors probably late next week or either the following week. So hopefully we're not going to delay much longer getting that board member appointed. And with that, I stand for questions.
Board members, any questions? I did have one quick, so these applicants have been in the pipeline for a little bit and just kind of going through the process, right? These are not like new applicants, because I know I've heard rumors that there are more applicants.
There are more applicants.
Cool. Okay.
We just have these 2 that we put through.
There's
we
the
haven't
pipeline.
started the interview process yet, so for
Cool.
the others.
Nope, that's all I wanted to double check on, so I appreciate it. All right, thank you, Mr. Sullivan. Next up for the report, sorry, Sullivan, I'm gonna, every time, I don't get it. Just kick me in the shins. Next up is a report from Community Policing Council, CPC, Mr. Kelly Mensa.
Okay, good evening, everyone. Good evening, Chair Boleantz, Honorable Board, APD officers, and city employees, and good evening. I'd like to start off my report by saying we have some good things going on tonight with the government shutdown. We took what I thought was a great initiative in focusing on what was going to change with shoplifting. We heard all these terrible things about the issues when nobody was going to be able to go shopping for a month, or, when they cut it off, there were going to be all kinds of crowds rushing the stores. So what we did was we focused on getting APD to speak about what the PRTs, the proactive response teams, do in each area command. These officers, there are usually 4 to 6 of them in each area command. They do not go out on calls, they are proactive. So they're just out there in the retail establishments and the businesses looking for things where people are doing something wrong. And a lot of that, depending on the area code, is focused on retail. So I figured we would speak about that as to whether there's going to be anything different for the month, as to whether they've noticed anything different. But obviously, someone suggested that everyone should eat it again, so we didn't get that opportunity. We are still going to talk to the PRT this month, the Every Area Command, talk about the holiday tech plans and what the city is doing differently for the rest of the year, with this being a major shopping month, of course. Also, we've reached out to a couple of different areas looking for new people. We've reached out to the Republican and the Democratic parties, and we've also reached out to the charter schools looking for YCPC members. Has not been fruitful at this time. I figured, hey, if we can get some people who are running for office, that's what we want. People who are really looking to make changes in their community and want to bump up like Commissioner Olivas and a couple of other people and use this as a springboard to higher office. As yet, I've not heard anything back from either party. Our sponsorship of the news on PBS is running. Again, have not heard anything back yet, but I'm hoping it sticks in somebody's mind when they're watching the news, the PBS News at night, because we have our little 15-second ad there, and I'm hoping to get some responses on that one. We received a recommendation on our one and only recommendation submission this year, which was 25-1. This involved officer-involved shooting and de-escalation. And the recommendation was conditionally accepted by DC Griego, and they liked some of the suggestions and other ones they were not entirely in with. I'll get there in 1 second. And this recommendation involved coordinating a biannual review, getting all the information on officer-involved shootings in one place to make it easy for the public, re-emphasizing to all officers multiple times about use of force and de-escalation, and utilizing the accomplishment model for quality improvement in this aspect of APD. And they are going to look to implement some of these solutions, so I think that's a good thing. We are working on some new recommendations as well. We did a couple of nights on DWI last week, and there's all sorts of issues, last month I should say, and there's all sorts of issues with DWI enforcement, one being that we do not test for anything other than alcohol locally. We send it up to the state, and sometimes it comes back too late to prosecute. So they are getting a handle on that problem, I was told, but it's not 100% yet. So we're looking to write a recommendation on this, and also one council member wants to streamline where you look into AI to find out exactly what you should do online when something comes up. For instance, there's a guy outside, been sitting outside my house now for an hour. What should I do? You should be able to go into AI and get information that directs you from exactly where you are now to where you want to be. And we had one counselor look up on Gemini and on ChatGPT and got totally different information. So if there's some way to streamline the process of the information AI is receiving on the Albuquerque Police Department. We're working on that one. I see Xander has a quizzical look on his face. So do I, but we're going to get there. Additionally, we've got our year-end dinner coming up. That's going to be December 6th. And that's going to be 5 p.m. Please, we'd love to see you there. And what we're going to do is we're going to have a Toys for Tots donation, bring an unwrapped gift, dinner, and a couple of speakers who should have some good information for us. That is my report for the early part of November. I stand for questions.
Kelly, what's your holiday schedule? Is it any different?
Holiday schedule, we are going to be having only 2 meetings next month. At this point, I believe that's going to be Southwest, and it's going to be Northwest.
And the Valley this month, are they meeting?
No, the Valley, obviously being the last meeting of the month, they fall right on Thanksgiving and Christmas every month, so they only do 10 meetings.
Okay.
Yep.
I'm not even going to touch the AI thing. I'm not going to do that. I did have a question around some of the advertising and all that stuff. I know because you're doing a lot of that work. Have you thought about doing like Instagram Reels and Shorts and all that stuff for Twitter and Instagram to kind of do more outreach and more kind of informative of what CPOA actually does?
Yeah, we've got a Twitter page now. All I'm doing is putting the announcements up at this point. As far as, are you talking humorous type stuff? Or?
More just informative, because I've seen APD do some stuff on Instagram,
okay.
and so now I'm kind of like, well, if they're doing it, why not us?
That's a good idea, actually. Yeah, I can probably shoot a couple.
Yeah, I mean, just some content creation, because I think most people nowadays in their 30s are on Instagram, aka Insta or whatever it is. I don't even know. I'm dating myself with my gray. So I don't know. It's just something to do, and then you can link that with the Twitter accounts. You can do that and the Facebook page, so you're getting multiple different platforms with one thing. So
It is a good idea. We haven't really gotten a lot of followers for that. But
yeah, I think the more you do it, the more followers you're going to get, right?
Right.
Because it's a frequency thing,
Yes,
right? So
yes,
I just thought about that.
No, it's a good idea. I'll actually shoot some videos before the end of the year and put them up, and we'll see what people have to
Maybe
say.
AI can help, and Gemini can solve all our. Sorry, I'm going to go.
Well, the
Sorry.
guy who came up with this is a physicist over at Sandia, so he's got to know something.
Nice, yeah, perfect. Any other questions? Thank you very much, Mr.
All
Vincent.
right.
I appreciate it.
Good evening.
All right, the next order of business is the report from the mayor's office by Director of Public Affairs, Doug Small. All right, next order of business is the report from the CPOA by Executive Director Diane McDermott.
Good evening, Board and Chair. So the the CPOA received 72 complaint intakes from October 1st to October 31st. 30 of those were assigned for investigation, mostly between CPOA. A couple were assigned to IA. 20 were driving complaints resolved with the supervisors. 2 were assigned for mediation, and 20 were miscellaneous, where again, either insufficient information was provided, it was determined APD personnel were not involved in the complaint, or the complaint was resolved to the citizen's satisfaction due to them just seeking information that we were able to provide. There were 5 commendations that were received. As requested, the board is starting to receive additional videos for level 3 uses of force, similar to what you received for the OIS, so that you can make better determinations on those types of cases. We are working with the APD executive team to develop a policy that pertains to professionalism and conduct during administrative investigative interviews, particularly those conducted over video like Zoom and things like that. There is a lack of professionalism policy, so we have a little working group that's enhanced on task with that. It is in the initial stages of development. APD has initiated what they call an enhanced supervision initiative, and the purpose of this is to resolve some lower level issues with a supervisor rather than opening an internal affairs investigation. Kind of to give you some context, this is somewhat similar as to how the driving complaints are resolved, and there is criteria as to the officer's disciplinary history and level of infraction. The reason why I bring this to your attention is, of course, that you may see in these coming IAPS reports, there'll be a reduction in I cases. And it's because some of these cases that normally would have opened an I will now be handled through this process, with the idea of always both the CPOA's goal and obviously the department's goal is to just improve the department, change behavior. So there are other methods other than just straight discipline that can accomplish that goal, and so that's what the department's working towards. The CPOA, the SWAT unit provided a training to the CPOA-B at our CPOA office on November 3rd regarding some of its operations. The SWAT unit did mention in that training that there were other units that they partner with and have some role in their operations. So I raise this now, if the board would like to hear from one of those other units sort of in a similar way, just please make your request either at some point during this meeting, during other business, or on a future agenda, and then the agency will coordinate it. Other than the calendar, I don't have anything else. I'll jump to the calendar in a moment, if there's any other questions first.
I was just gonna, if we're on the topic, do we want to raise it now, what we want to hear from next, or wait till other business, since we're at least chatting about it now?
Let's talk about it now.
So I would like to hear from, crap, I forgot what it was. I know there's a K-9 unit, and then also,
Bomb,
I'm sorry?
bomb squad?
Bomb Squad, yes, I wanted to listen to Bomb Squad first, and then K-9. Is my prioritization on that. I don't know if it might be better in the evening or whatnot, but yeah, we can do Bomb Squad first if all applicable.
So just when you get to other business, because that's where you can like actually make some discussion
Okay.
of that, just say that as officially, but I got it down that you want the bomb squad next, and we'll see what coordinates with them, in terms of schedule, given that the holidays are upcoming, it may not be until next year, but,
Oh, right, yeah, we got some time.
Yeah.
But at least I'm just writing it, I can't even write squad apparently. So I got it written down in other business, perfect.
So the other thing I'll bring to your attention is the schedule for next year, 2026's meeting schedule. Everything, I believe, has stayed consistent to our normal second Thursday with the exception of May. May is going to be on a Tuesday. It's the same week as the normal board meeting would be, but it has to be the Tuesday as opposed to the Thursday due to council conflicts. So it's just so that for the public and for the board knows that these are the meeting dates for next year.
Could I make a request that we change October 8th?
I'm sorry?
Can I make a request that we change October 8th to maybe that Tuesday on that same week as well? Just because it's Balloon Fiesta week, and
It's the night launches, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
and I work those shifts, and if I can make that change now, it'd be awesome. If not, then we'll deal with it then. If I can
We
formally
will-
request that.
Yeah, we'll look in and see if the chambers are available. It might be okay early enough, but we'll have to check.
Okay.
So,
Would we, is it better to, if like, instead of just somehow make it not either Wednesday, Thursday, Friday of that particular week? Is that what you're asking for?
Yeah,
Okay.
I would say do the same thing as we did for May on a Tuesday, if possible, right? Because Tuesdays kind of like odd days for stuff, if possible, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, not that Thursday or Friday, for sure.
Yeah, we do
If
try and
possible.
keep it the same week if possible,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
otherwise it starts cramping the schedule for other things.
Yeah.
But I know Tuesdays and Wednesdays don't generally have evening events at the Fiesta, so
Yeah,
if, you know,
If we can.
if you have a conflict, then we can inquire and see if it's available or not.
okay. Thank you, appreciate that.
I stand for any other questions?
Any other questions from the? Nope. All right. Thank you, Executive Director. Next order of business is public comments. Ms. Barella, I know we don't have any written comments. Do we have any public commenters?
Mr. Chairman, no one has signed up for public comment.
Wonderful, thank you, Ms. Barella. Next order of business is the appeal. All right, now let me get my stuff here. Okay, so this appeal is CPC 10525. First, what I would like,
Can you hold on just a minute?
sure,
Unless you pick up sign real quick, then I.
I do not, no. Nope, nope, nope.
And Carolyn's making a request that the interpreters stay right here for the appeal. She wants us to sit right here.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Just for no, she will have to come up to the podium to speak.
The appellant, yes. So we're gonna ask some clarifying questions here. For the interpreters and for Ms. Tanaka, who's the appellant, we do ask whoever is going to speak to the microphone is to stand up at the mic, if at all possible. And then I know just with the ASL will be a little bit complex, so we'll have to figure out what works. So this might just be a little herky-jerky until we get it figured out. So,
Is it possible then we can ask that Ms. Tanaka stands over here and she could see them, and then that way the interpreter's involved also on the camera?
sure. I don't see why not. I'm sorry.
We're trying to figure out, because it's, one interpreter being able to see Ms. Tanaka and voice on the mic, and then Ms. Tanaka needs to be able to see the other interpreter sign.
So I'm looking at you. Like if I speak right here, is that loud enough for the microphone to catch? Like do I need to be closer? I just can't, like, I need to look at her visually. Yeah.
She needs to stand close to the mic.
Yeah.
And see you at the same time, because they can't hear her if she's not speaking into the, whatever's most comfortable for you.
And we can trial and error this
Yeah, we can,
initially.
yeah. We
see how
can,
it
we'll have
works.
to figure it out and just try it a little bit.
I'm gonna have you speak shortly.
And we're watching here as well, Katrina, on the TV.
Okay,
Katrina.
testing the microphone. Can you hear me okay?
We can see on the TV.
Just testing the microphone. Can you hear me?
That's pretty solid. Perfect.
I believe we're ready.
Perfect. Awesome. Yep, we're gonna go nice and slow here. So, we are now going to the appellant portions. The first, as I said, the CPC number is 10525, brought by Ms. Tanaka. I would like our legal counsel to read his little spiel for the appeals.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We are now at the appeals portion of the agenda, and the following process will be followed in the appeal. During the appeal hearing, each interested party has an opportunity to be heard and present arguments stating their position. No new evidence will be permitted to be introduced. The appeal hearing today is a quasi-judicial hearing, and the decisions will be made by the members of this board. The scope of this appeal will be limited to the complaint and the findings of the investigation that followed. If parties during their presentation go outside of this scope, they may be directed by the chair that the only arguments that will be considered by the board are those relating to the complaint and subsequent investigation. We are recording this meeting tonight so that a complete, clear record can be created of everything being said. However, please remember that we cannot create an accurate record with people talking over one another. If people start to interrupt or talk over each other, the chair may call for order so that there can be a clear record of the hearing. The time limits for the hearing are as follows: 15 minutes for the complainant who requests the appeal or the representative. They may call witnesses, but this will count against their time. 10 minutes for the CPOA director or designee. 5 minutes for the police officer if he or she is present. 10 minutes for APD, and then 5 minutes for the complainant or their representative to provide a short rebuttal to anything that has been presented by the other parties. The burden of proof is upon the complainant bringing the appeal to demonstrate either 1, a policy was misapplied in the evaluation of the complaint, or 2, that the findings and recommendations of the director were arbitrary, capricious, or constituted an abuse of discretion, or 3, that the findings and recommendations of the director were not consistent with the record evidence. These are the only bases upon which the board may modify or change the findings or recommendations of the director. At the end of each party's presentation, the board will be given the opportunity to ask questions. These questions do not count against the party's presentation time. The questions should be focused on clarifying the record or argument given and should not offer or invite new information or evidence from a board member through asking the questions. Parties should remain respectful and professional during their presentations. Any disruption of another party's presentation shall not be tolerated. Also, a reminder that the parties should not use the officer's full name. Parties should only refer to the officer by their initial as indicated in the investigative reports. At the close of the hearing, the board will deliberate. The board may make a determination in open session or decide to deliberate in closed session as allowed by the New Mexico Open Meetings Act. All final decisions by the board will be made in public. Once a decision is made, a final written notice of decision will be provided to all interested parties as provided for in the CPOA ordinance.
Thank you, counsel. APD representative, you're here, correct? And then is the officer or PSA here? No. Cool, just want to confirm. Ms. Tanaka, do you understand the rules that counsel has read out?
Yes.
Wonderful. Okay, Ms. Tanaka, your time starts now.
Yeah, so this is regarding the accident that happened last year with my husband. He was driving from work to home on his typical route that he very often goes on. And the report had said my husband was hit, that he hit the other car. But when he was turning, he would not have been making that turn. He was going straight, but as he was coming home from work. I know that the other driver was able to explain his side of the story, and my husband was unconscious off and on, and he had a lot of bleeding. He had open wounds. He was bleeding, not stable. And he's Japanese, and he is not fluent in English. He has limited spoken English skills. And the report indicates that they had a conversation with the medical worker who was present. But how they communicated with him in his vulnerable position. He was covered in sores and wounds, and the report said it wasn't an issue to communicate with him. I don't understand how that would have been true. He didn't have a Japanese translator. Nobody brought in an interpreter for him. Again, he doesn't speak English to even be able to. They didn't make that request or ask if he needed anything. They just kind of continued on with the communication without that being provided, assuming he knew English. There was one phrase in the report that says, again, I'm deaf, and so I can't speak myself. And so it said something about me making this request. But with my husband in the situation that he was in, I don't understand how anyone would have asked and gotten consent. Now, for me, I would need an ASL interpreter, but he would need a Japanese interpreter. They didn't allow him the opportunity to be able to communicate what he was experiencing in that situation, or to be able to make the request for the interpreter. And I guess that's all.
Awesome. Thank you, Ms. Tanaka. I appreciate your time. All right. Next up, we have 10 minutes delegated for the director or designee of the CPOA. Executive Director, your time starts now.
Okay, thank you. So we investigated this case based on the complaint, and the primary issues being that the report was inaccurate, and then a secondary concern of that a translator was not available. So we agreed that the APD personnel did not write an accurate report. There was inaccurate information. We sustained that finding. I'm not sure much beyond that, we agree that there was inaccuracies. The supplemental report was written much later, and based on our investigation, the interview that we had, our investigator with Ms. Tanaka, that supplemental had accurate that information, so it was corrected. So we sustained the employee for the inaccurate reporting in the first place. When it comes to the translator issue, so her husband, as she said, was injured and did have several different injuries, was in and out of consciousness. Medical staff was interacting with him, mostly on the basis of trying to care, where you heard, those kind of things. At that time, he was communicating in English. So the statements that he did make, small and limited that they were in English. There was no APD personnel at that stage asking him any questions about the accident because he was needing medical care, and that medical care takes priority over determining what may have happened in the accident. So APD personnel didn't talk to him. They were actually talking to medical personnel. When he was speaking to medical personnel, he was speaking in English. They did not have an opportunity to ask him his side of the story at that time, again, mostly because of his condition and because of the priority of needing medical care. So the APD personnel do not make assumptions, nor do medical personnel, that someone needs a translator just based on an appearance or a possibility. There has to be some indication, whether it's the individual starts speaking in a different language, that clues in, obviously, the either APD or medical personnel that they do need to obtain a translator, or that they specifically request one. And I understand that her position is that he wasn't within the right mindset to ask for one, but again, they weren't having difficulty communicating on the very basic level that they were communicating with. He was asking about an ID, he was asking, so he was communicating in English. They understood the very minimal things, but again, APD was not getting his side of the story at that time. This was strictly medical personnel that were treating him. So that's kind of the basic, is that there was no indication at that time. He was speaking English, again, not extensively, but they weren't asking him anything extensive. And they don't make assumptions based on appearances that somebody needs one. So they communicated, he was taken to the hospital, he was treated, and then again later his correct statement was actually taken by a different personnel, and they corrected that report. So we have a sustained finding for the main issue that she complained about, and then we have the issue of there wasn't an indicator at that time to require a translator.
Thank you, Deputy Director. We do have 5 minutes allotted for the police officer if present, but since the officer or PSA is not here, we're going to move on to the APD representative. So if the APD representative can come to the mic. Yes, right there. And then before you get started, you do have 10 minutes. And so when you start, just say your name and rank just for the record. And so your time of 10 minutes starts now.
Good evening, board members, Chair Berlantz, members of the public. My name is Sean Waite. I am one of 2 APD commanders who review all discipline actions, whether that's from CPOA, area commands, internal affairs professional standards, or internal affairs force division. This case we received from the CPOA, and myself and Commander Landavazo reviewed it. It was relatively simple because CPOA had determined that the report that was written by the PSA contained some inaccuracies. I don't think the inaccuracies changed the meaning of the report overall. There was a concern about which direction Mr. Tanaka was driving. But regardless of that, we reviewed it. In doing the review, we go through the investigative report, we watch the OERDs, we read any reports that are written by the PSA or the officer on scene. We concurred that the report did contain inaccuracies, and therefore we sustained the PSA for that violation, and I issued her a verbal reprimand. So the violation was sustained, and we issued discipline. On the backside, if you will, of that, I believe the daughter had spoken with another PSA, and that PSA wrote a supplemental report which added to the initial accident report and corrected those inaccuracies. So at the end of the day, the circumstances or the story from both sides. And I would just comment that the driver who hit the motorcycle driver admitted that he was at fault. He believed the motorcycle was going to drive to the left, if I recall correctly, and the motorcycle continued straight. So I don't think there was an issue at who was at fault. It was the vehicle driver. So all that was recorded between the first and the second reports, the initial traffic incident report and the supplemental report. Make sense, gentlemen?
Yep.
Yeah. You have any questions on that?
Any questions, board members?
For the supplemental report, was there ever any interaction with Mr. Tanaka?
I don't recall if there was. I believe it was his daughter who had called the substation and wanted to relay what she understood had happened. In correcting, mostly what I recall was that the concern was over which direction he was driving. And they corrected the supplemental for him coming home from work driving east. I think the initial report had said he was driving west, if I recall correctly.
Thank you, Commander.
I can answer a little bit too if you have any. So the daughter did call, the daughter spoke and relayed the information. It was offered if Mr. Tanaka needed to add more himself that a translator would be available, but it was determined that he didn't need to add anything. The daughter was sufficient, so that was kind of the way that went, best as I recall.
All right. Thank you, Commander White. Thank you, Executive Director McDermott. Board members, any other questions? No? All right. Commander White, I appreciate your time.
Thank you, Board.
All right. And now, Ms. Tanaka, you do have 5 minutes left for rebuttal towards the CPOA or APD or anything else. Do you understand?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Then Ms. Tanaka, your time starts now.
Okay, I just have to disagree with what was just stated about the a medical issue and what happened at the emergency room. Because I had requested an interpreter come for my husband there at the hospital as well, and the medical staff were really struggling to communicate with him. There's a lot of misunderstandings and repetition, and there was just, he was understanding basic information, and so at that time I had requested an interpreter, and as well as an ASL interpreter, so that we could make sure that the access was, that we could get him caught up now that I was there. But the hospital said that they had a telephone interpreter, but my husband couldn't hear because of the damage to his ear during the accident, and so he was struggling to use the phone because of that. So we had to depend only on one side, and so it was creating more issues. And I had asked for an in-person Japanese interpreter to be provided, but the hospital wouldn't provide that in-person Japanese spoken interpreter. It was only on the phone, again, while he was a mess and he couldn't use one of his ears and he was really struggling. And so again, I wanted to emphasize that even the basic questions he was misunderstanding at the hospital.
Board members, do we have any questions? No? All right. Thank you, Ms. Tanaka. I appreciate it. All right. So with that, with that, where's my, I'm on the wrong page. I make a motion that the board convenes in closed session as authorized by the Administrative Adjudication Proceedings exception by the Open Meetings Act for the limited purpose of discussing the matters presented in CPC 10525. May I get a second?
Second.
Thank you so much. Ms. Spurlock, can I get a roll call vote, please?
Chair Boleonitz,
Approved.
Member Budenara,
Approved.
Vice Chair Calderon,
Approved.
Member Weimar.
Approved.
Mr. Chairman, that motion passed unanimously.
Thank you, Ms. Spurlock. All right, let's go. Thank you all. We'll be moving to closed session. We will be back once a decision has been reached. Welcome back. I make a motion to come out of deliberation. Can I get a second?
I second that motion.
Thank you, Vice Chair Calderon. Ms. Barilla, can I get a roll call vote, please?
Chair Bolianis,
Affirmed.
Member Budenaro.
Affirmed.
Vice Chair Calderon.
Affirm.
Member Wemark.
Affirmed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That motion passed unanimously.
Thank you, Ms. Barilla. First, I do say that during the conversation, we have come to find the CPOAs and agree with the findings of sustained for the CPOA when it came to the findings of the inaccuracy of the PSA filings, that they were inaccurate and then they got corrected. As for the findings of the interpreter, that is with UNMH, not APD, so we cannot comment or make a decision on that. So with that, I make a motion to approve, I make a motion to uphold the findings of CPC 10525. May I get a second?
Second.
Thank you, Member Budenaro. Ms. Barilla, can I get a roll call vote, please?
Chair Bolianis.
Approved.
Member Budenaro.
Approved.
Vice Chair Calderon.
Approved.
Member Wemark.
Approved.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That motion passed unanimously.
Thank you, Ms. Barilla. On a side note, Ms. Tanaka, I will say, based upon kind of the last comments of your concerns around getting an interpreter for yourself and your husband at UNMH, that needs to be directed to UNMH, and I believe there is a appeals or complaint process for UNMH and their staff. So just something to look into. Ms. Tanaka, do you have any questions or concerns or comments for us?
Yes. So when a deaf person like me or somebody who has limited English skills, you know, it's required under the ADA to provide an interpreter for that person. Or, you know, a translator, regardless, for anyone who doesn't speak English. That's required.
Council?
Yes. I mean, Mr. Chair, I don't think this is really the forum for that discussion, and so
Right.
it may be for another time and place, but not for this particular.
Yeah, I think it's outside of the time and place for this, as, you know, we have provided the interpretive services, but the issue was around the medical, from the comments at least, around UNMH, and I think that's where it needs to be directed, and not here, because that's outside of the jurisdiction of this board.
Do I have another chance to say something?
I'm going to lean on council because I think the time is up now, and I just wanted to ensure that you understood the findings and just the last bit of information we were trying to provide. So council?
Mr. Chair, I believe the board has made a final decision with
exactly.
regards to this, and so I believe the appeal has been concluded.
Yes, thank you, council.
But I was emphasizing that it's the police. The police do need to provide their interpreters. I want to end that they need to, I want to emphasize that they do need to provide interpreters under the ADA. So, in the medical environment, yes, but ADA also applies to APD. So again, for anyone who has limited spoken English proficiency. So yes, it happened in the medical situation, but the police have a responsibility to it as well.
So,
and if, you know, like if deaf people have a car accident or something like that, if a similar situation happened to me as to my husband, you would need to provide the interpreters then as well.
So the only thing that, you know, just to add, and again, this isn't to be protracting this discussion out, but there is a standard operating procedure. The circumstances by which in this specific case were followed. If the complainant would like to review the policy regarding limited English access, it is available on the public website to be able to review anything in terms of requirements for ADA accommodations, language proficiency, things like that. So that's available to the public to review. And there is a policy that discusses those things, and this was covered in this specific incident. And then any future incidents would be handled if a future complaint came through or whatever, looking at those specific parameters in that specific incident.
Yes, thank you, Executive Director. So with that, we are going to close out this appeal and move on to the next order of business. All right. The next order of business is the serious use of force cases, which is a standing item. Oh, yes, sorry. And then I do want to thank Ms. Tanaka and her interpreters for coming today. Thank you very much. Sorry. The next order of business is the serious use of force cases, which is a standing item. We do not have any for this, so we will move on to next order of business is the officer-involved shooting cases. The first one is APD case 24-0105-124, presented by myself. So this case was back in December where ISU detectives received tracker alerts from Circle K on the northwest side, indicating an armed robbery with two male suspects in a blue Hyundai sedan, later confirmed as Mr. P and Mr. G, and that vehicle was stolen. Then there was a second robbery at a Verizon store, again on the northwest side. The robbers used, well, they were robbed at gunpoint by the same suspects. Then the license plate cameras did keep track of these vehicles moving across the Albuquerque area, and then moved into, I believe, the northeast, where the detectives finally located the Hyundai parked on Carlisle near an AutoZone. Both suspects exited the vehicles and then walked around towards the store. The officers established containment once the two suspects came back. Upon the containment, Mr. P fled southeast on foot, so the two individuals broke in different directions, so they'll be talked about in two different ways. Mr. P fled to the southwest. Officers 1 and 2 pursued and giving verbal commands and forced warnings. Mr. P displayed a handgun and pointed the handgun at the officers. Officer 1 discharged 3 rounds and Officer 2 discharged 2 rifle rounds. Mr. P fell and dropped the firearm. IFD determined that these use of forces were objectively reasonable and within APD policy. Mr. G, the other suspect, fled southwest, dropping and then retrieving an object. Officer 3 pursued in his vehicle and observed Mr. G approaching an open business. Officer 3 pointed his rifle and gave verbal commands. Mr. G stopped, raised his hands, and complied, and he was taken into custody, which, wow, that's hard, without any further incident. Summary of the findings. Actually, let's move on to force used. So there were multiple level 3s by Officer 1, critical firearms discharge with 3 within policy, and then Officer 2 discharged the rifle twice with injury. Both were in policy. And then level 1, Officer 3, show of force, rifle in policy. Medical was provided to Mr. P, providing he was hit with GSWs. No policy violations or SOPs, rules or regulations. No deficiencies or concerns around tactics, policies, trainings, equipment, or supervision. However, there was a note that there was an improper force warning given. With that, Executive Director McDermott or Deputy Director Abbasi, is there anything the CPOA would like to add to this case?
Yes, sir. Good evening, Chair, members of the board. The two involved individuals in this case, they were suspected of multiple armed robberies during that day. They were reported to have committed 3 robberies, driven recklessly, jeopardizing public safety, and they brandished a firearm during the attempted robbery, during the robbery incidents. Detectives from the investigative support unit, they tracked the vehicle through multiple ALPR hits, as well as utilizing the 3SI device. They employed vehicle containment technique, which is a tactic designed to prevent a suspect vehicle from fleeing by surrounding it with police units. During the containment attempt, both suspects exited the vehicle and fled on foot. Officer pursued him, and one suspect identified as Mr. P was shot while fleeing and was holding a firearm. One officer discharged 3 rounds and the other discharged 2 rounds. The second suspect complied with officer's command and was safely taken into custody. Mr. P sustained 2 gunshot wounds. I could not locate the criminalistic report which detail the trajectories of the rounds that were fired. One round that was fired was confirmed to have struck a parked vehicle. However, the trajectories of the remaining 4 rounds could not be determined from the IAFD investigative documentation. In our observation, the fact that all 5 rounds traveled beyond the intended target in an open parking lot, area that included parked vehicles, passing traffic, and commercial establishment in the background, indicates an area where additional evaluation by the department would be beneficial. This case highlights the importance of additional training in our observation on backdrop and round containment specifically, particularly when rifles are deployed. in environments with potential public exposure. Based on the totality of the circumstances and the available evidence, the use of force was determined to be reasonable, proportionate, and consistent with the threat that was perceived by officers on scene at the time. De-escalation opportunities in this case were limited due to the rapid escalation of events. The investigation did not identify any potential violations of policy, procedure, training, or supervision.
Thank you, Deputy Director Abbasi. Commander Norris, is there anything you would like to add?
Nothing at this point, no.
Board members, any questions for either CPOA or Commander Norris?
I'm just curious about rifle proficiency. Could you speak to that just a little bit, Commander? How many of the rounds from the rifle hit?
We hit the subject.
Yes.
We know for sure that we hit the subject at least once. I think it's something to note that both the officers that were involved in the shooting, one was an ISU detective, the other one was a SWAT officer. The marksmanship, the proficiency of those rounds, I think it's kind of important to note that they were in a foot chase with this person and running while this person turned around, threatened them, and them discharging firearms. So your proficiency while you're moving and your rifle's doing this is probably going to go down a little bit. But we did hit the subject once and incapacitated him. Did not kill him, but was able to take him into custody safely.
Because I can speak. Did that round, that minimum one that hit the suspect, did that round go through or did it over-penetrate?
It did not over-penetrate.
Okay. Okay, so that's, I just was curious of.
So
rifle
going
versus
through
pistol.
and over-penetrate are the same thing. Are you asking if it was a through and through or if it's stuck inside of his body?
Through and through.
It was not a through and through.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, Deputy Director.
So per my review, I did see a note that there were two actually impacts on Mr. P, one on his left hand, one hitting him in his back, and the round went through him. But I may be mistaken. I did look at it, but it seems like there were two impacts on him, and the round went through the one that hit him in his back, went through his front.
Yeah.
Based off the photos that I looked at the other day, I did not see an exit wound.
That's fair. I just, if we're talking about a through and through with rifles versus, handguns, question is like, would have been a handgun been a better choice versus a rifle?
100% no.
Okay.
Not in a situation like that. That's dynamic, fluid, and you're chasing somebody. You want the most accurate weapon system you can possibly have, and that would be a rifle.
Okay. Any other questions? No. Do we agree with the findings? No. We agree with that. All right. Then with that, I make a motion that the Civilian Police Oversight Advisory Board affirms and upholds the finding for APD Internal Affairs Force Division investigation for APD case 24-01-05124. May I get a second?
Second.
Thank you, Member Wymark. Ms. Brilla, can I get a roll call vote, please?
Chair Bolianis?
Affirmed.
Member Budenaro?
Affirmed.
Vice Chair Calderon?
Affirmed.
Member Weimark?
Affirm.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That motion passed unanimously.
Thank you, Ms. Brilla. The next up is APD case 25-006-503, presented by Vice Chair Calderon.
Thank you, Chair. So this is APD case 25-006-503. Levels of force that were used: level 3, officer number 1 with a firearm discharged with a handgun ×9. Officer number 2, firearm discharged with rifle ×12. Officer number 3 with a firearm discharged handgun ×2. Officer number 2 as well, firearm discharged with rifle. And officer number 2 with firearm discharged with rifle. Give me 1 second. On January 24th of 2025, approximately at 01:14 hours, officers were dispatched to 3958 Montgomery Boulevard regarding a disturbance. Their caller reported a male, AW, banging on the door demanding to speak with O. The male threatened to shoot the caller if not let inside. The caller told dispatch that he would shoot the male if he entered. The day prior, officers had just completed a call at the same address where they were flagged down by a female resident who said male AW was pacing on the second floor, had knocked on her door, and was looking for O. Officers contacted AW, noted signs of mental health issues, and AW confirmed that he had been diagnosed with conditions and was on medication. He refused voluntary evaluation and did not meet criteria for involuntary hold. Officers instructed him to return to his apartment, and he complied. Officers later contacted RR, who stated that male had threatened to shoot him and his pregnant wife. RR said he could only see the male from the waist up, but believes he was armed because he kept a hand on his waistband during the altercation. The suspect broke RR's apartment window. After identifying AW as a suspect and confirming charges, officers returned to the vehicle shortly after AW was seen walking in the courtyard. As officers approached, Officer number 1 asked him to keep his hands visible. AW complied when Officer number 3 reached for AW's arms. AW backed up and said, "Don't touch me." Then pulled a firearm from his jacket pocket and fired at Officer number 1. Officer 1 described a sensation of being on fire. I'm returning fire while falling to the ground, firing 9 rounds total. Officer number 3 fired 1 round before his handgun malfunctioned. After clearing it, the second round failed to fire. Officer number 2 moved to the left of Officer number 1 and fired additional rounds. Officer number 2 later saw AW fall facing away from officers, but observed him still moving with the gun under his body. Officer number 2 fired 3 additional rounds for a total of 14 rounds. The use of force was, before I get to that part, as officers moved to render aid to AW, Officer number 4 contacted residents of apartment 162. CC sustained a gunshot wound to left upper arm, apparently from an officer's round that penetrated the apartment. AP had minor finger injuries from debris caused from rounds entering through the walls. Perfect. Let me go back real quick. If my stuff would work too. Post-use of force of injuries sustained, individual's behavior after taking custody. MW was deceased at that point. Medical was provided by officers to render aid. Injuries sustained by officers, individuals. Officer number 1 had a gunshot wound to his left upper thigh. MW succumbed to gunshot wounds. MC, a gunshot wound to left arm, and MP had abrasions to fingers. Individual was not charged, obviously, due to being deceased. No other use of forces were located within the system for MW. Possible policy violations, no violations for standard operating procedures, personnel rules, or administrative instructions. Tactics, there was a safety concern with officers possibly covering another officer. So officer number 3 with a firearm. No training deficiencies, no policy deficiencies. Equipment for OBRD was not recording at the time of OIS because where the rifle was located, it kept hitting the button, turning it off for officer number 3, and the handgun malfunctions, my apologies. Officer number 3's malfunction of his handgun. No deficiencies for supervision. And another one was officer number 2 described MW position face down, and officer 2 number was shown on OBRD and realized that MW was actually on his back and not on his stomach. With that being said, that's it.
Thank you, Vice Chair Calderon. Deputy Director Abbasi, does the CPOA have anything to add?
Yes, Chair. Thank you very much. The individual in this case, when contacted by the department personnel, failed to comply with officers' commands, quickly retreated as officers attempted to handcuff him and discharged a firearm toward the officer, striking a sergeant. The situation escalated immediately from non-compliance to a deadly threat, preventing officers from employing any de-escalation techniques or issuing any force warning prior to responding with deadly force. 3 officers discharged their firearms, and the individual in this case, he succumbed to his injuries at scene. During the exchange of gunfire, a bystander in a nearby apartment sustained a gunshot wound to the arm from a rifle round believed to have been fired by one of the officer. The officer, while repositioning to create distance and maintain a line of defense, fired multiple rounds. This movement altered the officer's backdrop, resulting in a round penetrating the apartment wall behind the suspect's position, which striking a bystander. The IAFD, as member Calderon stated, identified certain tactical and equipment deficiencies, and all of those were handled appropriately by the department. The investigation also considered the timing of rendering aid to the individual, which was attributed to the ongoing safety risks, including the fact that an officer had been shot the suspect remained in proximity of the firearm, and the scene had not yet been secured. These circumstances were found to be consistent with APD policy, which prioritizes officers and public safety and scene security prior to initiating medical care to the individual. The CPOA recognizes the professionalism displayed by the responding officers and also commend the thoroughness of IAFD investigation, which provided a detailed analysis of the event that transpired that day. Incident again such as these, they highlight the need for enhanced scenario-based training, specifically when using rifles, emphasizing backdrop assessment during rapidly evolving deadly force encounters. The department should explore additional firearm training focused on backdrops and round containment, specifically when rifles are deployed to further mitigate the risk to the bystanders and reduce potential civil liability for the department and the city. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Director Bossi. Commander Norris, is there anything APD would like to add?
Nothing at this point, no, sir.
All right. Board members, do we have any questions or for Deputy Director or Commander Norris? Go ahead. One of the things that I saw that I don't like to see, as you know, Commander Norris, is were the two people who, not the suspects, they were just in their homes and got struck, right? They were just bystanders. What is there a training opportunity or anything that you saw to help mitigate that hitting bystanders in the future?
Well, all the firearms training we do is based off of basic marksmanship, speed, and trying to hit the target that you're shooting at. When you're in a real life situation, we can do RBTs all day. It's not going to mimic somebody who's actually firing bullets at you. We do hold our officers to a high standard. However, we do not hold them to a standard of perfection in that they're going to hit everything that they shoot at in a dynamic situation like that. Every firearms training that we conduct, we are looking at and they are aware of what the background is. The unfortunate thing about gunfights is we don't get to choose where they're at. And we have to make a choice of whether or not we're going to fire back or if we're just going to take rounds. But those are emphasized in our firearms training through every qual, through every reality-based training, through enhanced firearms types of training, whether it's advanced rifle, whether it's basic rifle, handguns, things like that, through the virtual reality training that we have. So that training is reinforced at every type of firearms training that we do have. It is an unfortunate circumstance that sometimes you're not going to hit what you're shooting at, especially if bullets are flying at you, and you're also moving, trying to kind of move to cover while shooting at the same time. But those things are graded and looked at, yes.
Okay. And then from the Officers 3 malfunction, was it a ammunition issue? Was it a firearms itself issue?
It was a soft seat of a magazine.
Cool. That's one of the weird things I want to know.
Okay.
Vice Chair Calderon, any other questions, or did I cover your question? No. Okay.
I've got
any other
one.
Questions?
Yes, sir.
How's the sergeant?
He's good. He's back to duty.
Thank you.
Yep, he's back to duty. I appreciate you asking.
That's good to hear. Awesome. So with that, I assume we all agree with the findings of IAFD? Wonderful. So with that, I make a motion that the Civilian Police Oversight Advisory Board affirms and upholds the finding of APD's Internal Affairs Force Division investigation for APD case 25-006503. Can I get a second?
I second that motion.
Thank you, Vice Chair Calderon. Ms. Burla, can I get a roll call vote, please?
Member Chair Bolianitz.
Affirmed.
Member Budenara.
Affirmed.
Vice Chair Calderon.
Affirm.
Member Weber.
Affirmed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That motion passed unanimously.
Thank you, Ms. Burla. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great week,
Commander. All right. With that, I think it's about time to go to take a dinner break. So with that, I make a motion for a dinner break. Can I get a second?
Second.
Thank you, Member Budinaro. Ms. Burla, can I get a roll call vote, please?
Chair Bolianitz.
Approved.
Member Budenaro.
Approved.
Vice Chair Calderon.
Approved.
Member Weber.
Approved.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That motion passed unanimously.
Thank you, Ms. Burla. And so we will go on break. We'll be back in about 30 minutes or shortly. So we will be back shortly. Welcome back. I make a motion to come out of dinner break. May I get a second?
I second that motion.
Thank you, Vice Chair Calderon. Ms. Perella, can I get a roll call vote, please?
Chair Bolianis.
Approved.
Member Budenaro.
Approved.
Vice Chair Calderon.
Approved.
Member Wimmer.
Approved.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That motion passed unanimously.
Thank you, Ms. Perella. The next order of business is the report from the CPOAB subcommittees. The first up is the Ad Hoc Audit Committee, presented by myself. The meeting was held on October 31st, 2025 at 10 a.m., where that Ad Hoc Committee met to select the one file to audit from the CPOA. There was only one to choose from, so that's the one that we chose. Ed and I will get that information here shortly, and I'm going to need to confirm with Ed or Member Budenaro about when to meet, hopefully in January. Thank you. I appreciate it. That's very helpful. But that's all for now. We don't have the meeting locked in yet because it's going to take a while to do the audit. So, board members, any questions around the ad hoc audit committee? No. That's me. All right. Next up is the policy and procedure review subcommittee presented by Vice Chair Calderon.
Thank you, Chair. The Policy and Procedure Review Subcommittee was held on November 6th of 2025 at 3 p.m. We will review the policies in the next section within the agenda. The next meeting is going to be on December 4th of 2025 at 3 p.m. Meeting notification will be posted as appropriate. Thank you.
Wonderful. And then the next subcommittee report is the Ad Hoc Rules Subcommittee presented by Member Budenaro.
Thank you, Chairman Bolianis. The meeting was scheduled yesterday on November 12th, 2025 at 3:30 p.m. We've made a few tweaks to it, and we have now scheduled another meeting which will be held Wednesday, January 7th at 10 a.m.
Oh, wonderful. Are you guys looking into the appeal section at all of?
That wasn't one of the ones that we tweaked, I don't believe.
Deputy Director?
I can answer that. So,
No, sorry.
we made a brief flip in terms of the appeal section, order of business. We put appeals in front of force review was a proposed order of business. When it came to the appeals section itself, again, some of the rules things have to abide by our current ordinance, and our current ordinance has not been modified. That's another, pending thing for the board. So the rules modifications have to work within the parameter of the ordinance that exists now. So if I understood correctly, some of the thoughts about appeals are things that you want to change about like the appeal as a whole, but we still have to abide by the current ordinance. So the ordinance would have to change first. And so these rules things would then have to be picked up basically in the following year's worth of changes, because it is supposed to be an annual review. So this review is based on this ordinance. If the ordinance were to change either next year or later this year, whatever, then the 2026 rule process would pick up some of those changes if the timing worked. If I understood kind of where you're
Perfect. Thank you, Executive Director. So, no other questions. Any other questions? Nope. All right. Next order of business is discussion of possible actions, APD policies, and then we're going under recommendations. I do want to make a note, right, because that's. Is that on?
Yeah, the report is first on the agenda, and then you go into the policies after that.
Oh, I don't have that on my agenda. Sorry. So the next order of business is the CPOA semi-annual report from January 2025 to June 2025, presented by Mr. Gabe Reamer.
Good evening. Thank you. So, as the chair just mentioned, I'm Gabriel Reamer. I'm the policy analyst for the CPOA, and I'll be presenting very briefly on the Civilian Police Oversight Agency's semi-annual report for January 1st through June 30th of 2025. The report largely presents and summarizes what we, but as the CPOA, and you guys as the CPOAB, see through complaints, investigations, use of force, and policy work involving APD. And this report is specific to the first 6 months of 2025. Just for people who are watching that may not be as familiar as people in this room, under the Oversight Ordinance, the CPOA is required to publish the semi-annual report to keep the mayor, city council, and the public informed about APD oversight. And also just anybody who's curious and watching, people may wonder why a report that reports for the first 6 months is being presented in November. It's because this data takes a while to finalize. Even if a complaint is completed, whether even with or without discipline considerations, it can take sometimes like a month or a couple months for that data to be finalized. So we wait on it a little bit and then come out with the report later. And with that, I will begin with the details. And hopefully this is probably gonna be small for you guys, but it should be good on the TV. So during the period, the CPOA, I put this at the very top because I didn't want to forget to mention it. The CPOA implemented a new civilian complaint request, or CCR, as we call it, the acronym, process that refines our intake and triage process. This change that requires putting the actual requests instead of just internal tracking, we put them onto IA, and there's additional evidence gathering that takes place. That change has led to fewer cases being administratively closed later in the process and a higher rate of sustained findings, as those are prioritized, or allegations that CPOA investigators think could be sustained are given priority. So the CPOA also strengthened our staffing numbers by hiring 3 additional investigators and creating new supervisor roles, such as the lead investigator position and senior investigator positions. So that has led to what you'll see later on in the reports, with a higher rate of sustained, lower rates of administratively closed. So broadly speaking, complaint intake for the period was higher than it usually is, but kind of on pace, with 457 intake of potential complaint notifications. Of those, the CPOA opened 131 complaint investigations. That's the received complaints category. And within that, 121, or within this period, 121 complaints were closed. 60 of those 121 had at least one sustained finding within them. Also, it's important to mention that we received 29 commendations for showing just commendation for APD behavior. So diving into the investigations a little bit, in these 121 completed complaints, the CPOA investigated 148 APD employees on behalf of 116 identifiable named complainants. Of those employees, 73 were found to have violated APD policy. In the last period, there was 136 employees investigated. 46 were sustained. That's about 34%. This number is closer to 40. So it's gone up. And there were 112 identifiable complainants and 6 anonymous last year. Very similar to this reporting period, with 116 identifiable and 5 anonymous. So across these cases, the CPOA sustained 107 out of 268 alleged policy violations. Just to be clear, within each CPC, there could be multiple policy violations for multiple officers. APD disagreed with the sustained findings of the CPOA and 12 alleged policy violations within 7 CPCs. And that's about typical. And if you look at the table at the bottom there, you'll see the top 5 investigated chapters of the SOP, with 1 personal code of conduct being the highest at 119. That is almost always the case, is it being the highest. But the highest sustained this period, which was 2.8 for use of on-body, according to VICES. 216, 2.8, and 1.1 are consistently the highest sustained and investigated policies by the CPOA. Hasn't changed much over time. And those other 271 and 260, also frequently find themselves at the top of the list. So discipline, this shows the final discipline imposed, or at least determined. this is much higher than it was in past rates, especially because we're finding more sustained. And I don't want to speak for APD, but there's been some adjustment to this. There's going to be changes coming up or that have been made already in the discipline process to kind of remove lower level violations and take them to more of a this ESI approach. But I think that this high rate, this high period probably had something to do with that. As you see, 2.8's the highest, 1.1, 216, 260. These are frequently at the top of every period. Just because they're reporting requirements, no big changes between periods here. When it comes to the demographic breakdown of investigated employees, the ones in the red were sustained. It's typically the case that there's very low levels of the Black, Asian, mixed race minorities. Majority of the department is white. About half of that is Hispanic. These are the breakdowns we almost always see. Diving further into APD details here, sorry, this is hard for you guys to see, but this presents the rank and the divisions. Again, no big changes here. The only thing I will emphasize within the rank is that if you look at police service aid, there was 11 investigations into police service aids during the period, 10 of them had sustained findings. And that has led to, say, at least a few policy recommendations for both CPOA and the CPOA-B to change policy in regard to finding so many violations against PSAs. Divisions haven't changed much over the period, Northeast, Southwest, valleys frequently high with sustains. No big changes there. Complainant demographic breakdown, much more of a mixture here and a lot of missing reporting, as is typical. But the breakdown follows what we usually see, which is almost half, or majority white, half of that typically Hispanic. So this is not published info because, and I reported on this, or presented this to you guys last period as well, because it was a great idea by the chair of Bolianitz, just to give a little more context behind these complaints. I think this is an interesting thing to do. It doesn't tell you that much, and it can be kind of deceptive if you try to read into it too much. But these numbers present the most common situations and allegations reported in complaints as perceived by the complainants. Basically, how they wrote the complaint in, what did they say happened, and what did they allege. And these are all very frequent. Traffic stops a little lower than in the periods past, but vehicle accidents are frequently high up there, as is responding to emergency disturbance. Please note that these are very big buckets, especially when it comes to recurring allegations. Lack of service can mean a lot of things, but typically it is what you think it is they asked the police department to do something, and in the complainant's point of view, it was not done. Report documentation issues, bias and abuse of authority. These are all recurring allegations. Now, that doesn't say that they were sustained. That is simply what the complainant is putting forward. And I think that's interesting to look at and think about. It's not published in the report, but I like to bring it to you guys to provide you guys more context since we have the info. Moving on to use of force. So during the period, APD had 355 total use of force interactions, 87 level 1, 200 level 2, and 58 at level 3. 8 interactions, about 2.3%, were found to be out of policy. Compared to the previous period, total use of force interactions dropped from 375 to 355, and level 3 and out of policy incidents both decreased. To expand on that a little bit, last period, like I said, 375 total interactions. It had 85 level 3 interactions, so quite the drop there, from 85 to 58. And 7 in the last reporting period of that 85 were found to be out of policy, just 4 in this period. Also, I'd like to bring attention to and note the hard work of the board in reviewing 21 serious use of force cases over that period, 10 level 3 uses of force, 10 OISs, and 1 in custody death incident. And we're moving fast. I like it. And last slide, I'm sorry I couldn't make pictures for this stuff, so I just had to put it out there so that I could remember to talk about it. But when it comes to policy review and recommendations, the CPOA, CPOA-B, and CPCs made 109 policy recommendations on behalf of 44 policies at 22 PPR meetings and during 21 35-day review processes. Just to expand on that a little, PPRB is this awesome opportunity the CPOA and a board member gets to go to every week to talk about policies that are currently on cycle. That is where most of our recommendations were made. As you can see, 65.2% were made at PPRB. This period along is similar with other periods. At about 60% of the policy recommendations are typically accepted right when they're given by APD. Public outreach. There's a lot, you'll have to refer to the report to find the specifics of exactly what was going on. And Mr. Mensa from the CPCs comes every month and presents on the ongoings of the CPCs, the community policing councils, but they continue their ongoing community engagement efforts during this reporting period, hosting and participating in a wide range of meetings, presentations, and public events. These efforts culminated in significant collaboration with city leadership, APD representatives, and community stakeholders across all 7 area councils. Another big note to highlight for this reporting period is the CPOA relaunched its mediation program in May, in accordance with the city's oversight ordinance, which designates mediation as the preferred method of resolving civilian police complaints. The program provides an impartial forum for the community members and APD officers to engage in structured dialogue, promoting understanding and improving community policing relations. When it comes to what cases are referred to mediation, eligible cases include complaints involving communication issues, rudeness, or minor administrative concerns. These are typically lower level policy violations. Allegations involving the use of force, bias, or injury are excluded. Sessions are typically conducted within 30 days of referral and include pre-mediation consultations, a 1 to 2 hour joint session, and optional follow-up. So more will come out as that is continuing to progress and as the results come out. But that's very exciting and something to look forward to as it develops. And of course, something that deserves to be mentioned is cost of termination. So on May 12th, 2025, the joint motion by the U.S. Department of Justice and the City of Albuquerque to terminate the court-approved settlement agreement, also known as the CASA, was granted, formally dismissing the lawsuit and ending more than a decade of Department of Justice oversight of the APD. The motion asserted that APD had achieved full and effective compliance with the agreement's material requirements based on sustained improvements in the use of force, internal investigation supervision, and related outcome measures, making continual federal monitoring unnecessary. And I bring that up just to highlight the importance of local oversight in that case, and how central that is to ensuring that the reforms that were made and the progress that was made through CASA maintain and only grow. And with that, I hope I didn't go too fast, but I'm happy to stand for any question.
Board members, any questions?
No questions. I appreciate the data.
Yeah, I appreciate it a lot. Yeah, it looks really good. I like the buckets of the complaints and just some basic things to look at. Just, oh yeah, okay, here's the summary. I appreciate it. I liked it. Somebody made a great idea. Vice Chair. Any questions? No? Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your work, and I appreciate it.
Thank you. And I will remain here for policy talk.
Yeah, we're good. So now the next order of business is APD policy recommendations. Yes,
Chair,
Deputy Director.
sorry to interrupt. If you could please vote on this item so we can move it forward to the City Council for final approval.
I mean, I guess we can. So we all agree to move it? Then I make a motion that we approve and consent forward the semi-annual audit report for January 2025 to June 2026. Can I get a second?
Second. Stand by. Stand by, everybody. 26. You said 26, 25.
Sorry, shoot.
So we do it.
Yeah, make a motion for CPOA semi-annual audit report from January 2025 to June 2025. Can I get a second?
Second.
Thank you, Member Budenaro. Ms. Brilla, can I get a roll call vote, please?
Chair Bolianitz.
Approved.
Member Budenaro.
Approved.
Vice Chair Calderon.
Approved.
Member Weimar.
Approved.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That motion passed unanimously.
Thank you, Ms. Brilla, and thank you, Deputy Director Abbasi, for calling that out to make sure we vote on that. Okay, now we can move on to the next order of business, because apparently I want to get to it, is APD policy recommendations. I do want to call out before we get going too far into this. I did notice that SOP 3-31 physical fitness assessment does have some policy recommendations based upon the CPC. So I make a motion to move SOP 3-31 physical assessment up from no recommendations to recommendations. Can I get a second?
I second that motion.
Thank you, Vice Chair Calderon. Ms. Spurla, can I get a roll call vote, please?
Chair Bolianitz.
Approved.
Member Budenaro.
Approved.
Vice Chair Calderon.
Approved.
Member Weimar.
Approved.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That motion passed unanimously.
Thank you, Ms. Spurla. So the first SOP we're going to look at is SOP 2-83, formerly 2-11, hospital procedure and rules.
Yes, so with the first consideration for this policy, both of these came in because of complaints that the CPOA received. So I got word from an investigator in the office thinking about how to try to solve these issues. So the first is that the CPOA received a complaint about how a female in custody individual felt uncomfortable that a male APD officer was supervising her use of the restroom while performing guard duty at the hospital. The officer was not found to have acted out of policy or inappropriately, but policy language could prevent future complaints and, as I'll go on to mention, help just provide some guidance to officers to what to do in that situation. In PPRB, APD denied the recommended language when feasible, sworn personnel of the same sex as an in-custody individual shall supervise the individual during restroom use, medical treatment, or other sensitive situations. That's what I put forward originally. APD authors stated that was simply unfeasible, even with the when feasible language, because it is too difficult to coordinate same-sex guard duty. This isn't like the prisoner transport center where you're pulling from a pool of potential people that could, there's a bunch of officers there and maybe there's a female one that could take someone to the restroom. That's not how guard duty works. It's usually just one person assigned to the duty. But currently, there is no SOP language for the exact procedures APD officers must follow when on guard duty and when the in-custody individual must use the restroom at a hospital or medical facility. So in our subcommittee discussion, we came around to the conclusion that this is a hard problem to solve because of the issue of it would be easier if you could send a same-sex individual to try to alleviate some of this concern and some of the complaints that may stem from them. But that is very difficult. So what we're trying to do is really just trying to provide some sort of guidance language for officers so that they can act as appropriately as they can with the assurance that that's what policy says. Because that was what came up in this case is really there was no policy language to judge how this person acted. So going forward, what we kind of discussed was a potential recommendation to 283.5D2 and adding a new subsection. So the policy already states when personnel are on guard duty, sworn personnel shall not leave an in-custody individual unattended at a hospital or medical facility. And then it says, when feasible, sworn personnel shall maintain line of sight supervision of the in-custody individual. And then this one is the language I wrote, which says, when an in-custody individual requires a restroom break at a hospital or medical facility, sworn personnel shall remain at the restroom doorway, maintain access to line of sight supervision, and may look away from the in-custody individual when they are unclothed, unless there's an articulable safety or security concern to justify consistently observing the in-custody individual. Now that is just my language. It's quite wordy. It was hard for me to get out. But any recommendations to that policy, really what we're looking for is maybe even something that we could put forward to APD so that they could take the initiative to use the best language possible. But really we're trying to help officers out in the situation so when they're put into it, they can have something to refer to and act appropriately when they're doing so, and safely. So that's the first consideration to it.
He explained it perfectly. Okay. And we concur with that at our subcommittee, we agreed on that because there's a level of line of sight, and obviously a level of privacy as well as much as possible. But of course, if you're in custody at a medical facility with a constant overwatch, it's for a reason.
Yeah.
So I think this is the best of both worlds, right? And to be honest with you, it seemed like it was practiced already before. Right. But of course, if there's no policy, we get a complaint, all that stuff. We're gonna make sure it's in written language so we ensure officers have the right guidance, but as well, in the event there is a complaint, we're able to reference that guidance as well.
Yeah, I like it, and I think it's something that APD can poke holes into, I think, a little bit too, because the one thing that I can see if, they, in this, it said remain in the doorway, but if there's stalls or anything like that, you're losing line of sight regardless. So there, again, APD can, I think, clean it up, but I think this is a good draft and a good recommendation. So I appreciate it. I think it's well thought out and just like, yeah, okay, we put that on paper.
And typically when in custody individuals are at a hospital, it's an ED,
yeah,
not inpatient care. And it's typically a single bathroom.
Oh, okay.
Typically,
yeah,
depending on the location.
Well, I mean, we're just wanting to clarify, right? So.
I should mention that this policy also it speaks about restroom use in one other occasion, but it's only talking about restraints. So it's talking about how you can, how there's stabilizers in the bathroom that you can, so it mentions that, but that's the only, it doesn't have any other conduct behavior for the officer after that. And when this started off as, when I was speaking to the investigator, it's like, well, maybe they could have same-sex hospital staff go in with them and kind of do the supervision with, APD staying around to keep, to be warned of anything. But that, of course, APD policy can't direct what hospital staff do. And also, I think it puts an officer in a weird situation to have to make those requests sometimes. So that's how we got to this point, and I appreciate that you like the language, but if any way you think it might be changed so that it's more likely to be adopted or more likely to, or any argument we could put forward to make APD take some initiative to write their own language they see as more fitting, I'm happy to receive.
I agree on the latter, that, I think it's sufficient to give APD a go around, to your point, to poke the holes or modify as necessary.
But it puts the ball in their court.
Yeah. I think we have to vote on this section first.
Yes, we do got to vote by section.
Yep.
So do you want, Mr. Vice Chair, who's the chair of the policy procedure?
So I make a motion that we approve, I make a motion that we forward this comment off to APD for section 2-83-5-D-2, for the language that was just spoken by Mr. Reamer. May I get a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Ms. But let me get a roll call vote, please.
Chair Boleonitz.
Approved.
Member Budenara.
Approved.
Vice Chair Calderon.
Approved.
Member Weimark.
Approved.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. That motion passed unanimously.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yes.
Okay. Moving on to the next section will be for the 2-83-4-D-6. Mr. Reamer?
Yes, so the CPA also received a complaint about how a family member was in custody of the APD at a hospital, but when they reached out to APD, they could not easily locate him. The individual had been transferred to a different hospital, but the transfer was not documented, tracked in a manner that was easily discoverable and retrievable in APD systems. The CPOA investigator watched the relevant OBRD footage to determine the individual's location. In PPRB, the investigator raised this concern, and the APD author agreed there was an issue with the ease of access of retrieving that information, but did not suggest a means of curing it. So this is a hyper-technical recommendation. It has to do with basically putting things into the CAD system. So the language of the actual policy is really kind of up to APD and however they want to make it so that basically a name is searchable within that system. Because the problem that hopefully I don't muck up the story at all, but if you just search a name within the CAD, that's how they were trying to locate this individual, but it wasn't pulling up that way. But there is possibly, unless APD has a better way, there's a subject section in person details of CAD, and if it was required that they put that person's full name, the subject's full name in of who they're guarding into that, then within the APD systems, within the CAD, you could search that and be able to pull it up faster. So the recommendation is very straightforward. Whoever is responsible for guard duty shall add the name of the in-custody individual as a subject to in-person details of the CAD. So very technical recommendation there, but really it's just so that kind of information is more easily retrievable from that system. But so CPOA is going to put this recommendation forward regardless on behalf of the investigators, but if you guys would like to put your stamp of approval on it, please do, or any recommendations further or against.
So to add on to their reasoning, if your family member is reaching out to 242 cops trying to inquire where you're at, I believe it's a due diligence of APD to know where you're at, right? And so with that being said, to make it easier for 242 cops, commanders, all the people within APD to be able to locate people that are in custody, because you're in APD's custody at that point, it should be documented. And so I think that we should put this in the policy, or at least recommend this as being put into policy.
Yeah, if a suspect is in custody, it is the job of APD to know where those individuals are at. Whether they use the subject or in-person's detail, I don't care. They need to do some sort of tracking for the individual, that if somebody calls whatever, they should be able to find them. So I agree wholeheartedly on this one. Yeah.
You go back to chain of custody.
Yeah, exactly. Chain of custody, right? You're maintaining custody and where things are at.
People, things, yeah. People, things, assets.
Yes.
Any questions? Cool. All right. Cool. With that being said, does anybody disagree with moving forward with this recommendation?
Yeah.
Perfect. So I make a motion that for 2-83-4-D-6, that we move this recommendation to be submitted on our behalf to APD. May I get a second?
Second.
Thank you, Chair. Ms. Barrera, may I get a roll call vote, please?
Chair Bolianis.
Approved.
Member Budenaro.
Approved.
Vice Chair Calderon.
Approved.
Member Weimer.
Approved.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. That motion passed unanimously.
Thank you, Ms. Varela. Do you want to continue?
Yes.
Cool. Perfect. Moving on to the next item, which would be SOP 2-86, auto theft and motor vehicle theft-related investigations. Mr. Reamer?
Yes, so this is a policy recommendation we've talked about a few times, and we've been trying to get in for a while. We've tried in a couple different policies, but I frequently hear from the APD author that this would be better for the PSA policy. However, this recommendation, we're looking for something that restricts PSAs from unilaterally confiscating license plates. This is if the license plate reader flags something for them. We'd rather have a sworn personnel who has the training and equipment necessary to better defend themselves take that kind of action. But this, I put forward it again during PPRB, and it was proposed and denied. I recommended adding a new subsection at the end of SOP, at the end of 286-4D, titled Recovering Stolen License Plates, to ensure license plate confiscation is conducted by sworn personnel. In PPRB, the APD author disagreed with the recommendation for 3 apparent reasons. PSAs should have the authority to confiscate stolen license plates because they are not legal property. While understanding the safety concerns for PSAs, this is outweighed by the concern of confiscating those stolen plates, and a manpower thing that it's not, there aren't particular people driving around looking for these, so when you have the opportunity to get one, I guess they want people to take it. And if the recommendation is implemented at all, it would be more appropriate for the PSA specific policy. The full recommendation would be something like police service aides, PSAs, shall not recover a license plate that has been reported stolen. PSA shall immediately notify or request sworn personnel to respond and take appropriate action. So at board discussion, really what we came around was I'm frustrated with, because I feel like this is I feel like when I put this recommendation forward to a lot of APD personnel, it's met with agreement. They think, oh yeah, that makes sense. But no one wants to take it on, even though this one seems like it's right on the nose. It's talking about recovering stolen license plates. It's exactly what we're talking about. So I don't like putting forward redundant recommendations, but this one may need your guys' push to help me out. And any other arguments we could put forward. With a highlight, I think the best argument we have is the highlight of the recommendation. It's the primary purpose of this is the PSA safety.
Right. So before you jump into this, wasn't there a letter written that basically says PSA shouldn't do this? I believe that was written by Chief Medina and was submitted. I'm 95% confident.
So I had the same memory, but actually when we researched it more, it was dealing with PSA activities regarding accident investigation and what was it?
OC spray.
OC spray.
Okay.
So I think I know it's like Mandela effect or something. I thought we did too, but when we researched it, we must have discussed it, but either we had an information that it needed to wait or something like that. So no, there was no actual letter put forth to chief about this specific issue.
Right. Yeah, and I do know PSAs, the ones that I talk to, the ones that do, they kind of get told like, hey, don't do that. That's not safe. So yeah, I mean,
And that's my biggest reason for this, right?
it's not safe.
I mean, I always go to my worst case scenario. They pull a plate from somebody's house and someone comes out the house and shoots them.
Yes.
What's that PSA
Because
gonna do?
PSAs do not wear.
They wear bulletproof
Yeah.
vests, but they can't defend themselves.
Yeah, they have nothing.
What's OC gonna do?
Yeah.
Nothing.
Not that far away. Yeah.
And so
It's not
if
safe.
we can mitigate this risk and put it forth, why not? And at this point, let them respond back formally and we'll see what they say.
Yep.
Because it is a safety thing, and if they come back with it and say they don't want to, then we can be like, we recommended this, and when it happens, we'd be like, we told you.
Then it goes to Ms. Rosenbro.
Well, that one's different. Story. But, so we want to try to mitigate as much as we can, right? And I think this is just an easy fix, and simple as that. So with that being said, does anybody have any questions?
Yeah, I agree.
Perfect. So with this, I make a motion that we approve that this recommendation be submitted on our behalf for 2-86-4-D-3. May I get a second, please?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Budenado. Ms. Varela, may I get a roll call vote, please?
Chair Bolianis.
Approved.
Member Budenaro.
Approved.
Vice Chair Calderon.
Approved.
Member Weimer.
Approved.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. That motion passed unanimously.
Thank you, Ms. Varela. Chair?
Yes, the next policy that we need to look at was the one we brought up from the no recommendations, and that is SOP 3-31 physical fitness assessment. And again, this one will be presented by Mr. Reed.
Yes, thank you, and thank you for sneaking it into this section so we could discuss it. So the CPOA received comments from a member of the Community Policing Council on this on this SOP, and they said, with regard to the physical fitness assessment, I don't see the criteria specified to pass or exceed the established fitness criteria, nor do I see how often the assessment is to be given, quarterly, biannually, et cetera. So pretty on the nose and good questions there. When I looked through the policy, I discovered that it is accurate. The SOP does not specify the criteria for passing the assessment, nor exactly how often it is given, although it applies at least yearly. If you look at those specific sections, so it says scoring methods will be provided before testing. And timeline-wise, it says assessments are scheduled with yearly biennium training. Another point on that in a second, and offered during the year at a frequency determined by the Health and Wellness Coordinator and approved by the Academy Division Commander. Lastly, I think it's important to note that I think the policy is explicitly written such that the standards aren't strict. They're flexible such that the Health and Wellness Coordinator may change the type of components assessed or the scoring methods used for the physical fitness assessment in an effort to maintain up-to-date procedures and standards. But when I was looking at this policy, one thing that stood out to me was this usage of the phrase yearly biennium training, which appeared to me out of context appears kind of contradictory because it's yearly, every 2 years training. That biennium is not a word I use a lot, but it does mean 2 years. So I think there is, whether you guys support it or not, I'm going to put something forward to try to clean that language up. I think biennium training is referring to the training that they're on, and it may be kind of an outdated termination for that. Maybe it's something like maintenance of effort. As I spoke with officers here today, they said that that might be a better distinction for that. But yearly, and also I think it's important to note that this physical fitness assessment is voluntary. This is not requirement fitness standards for APD. That is simply when an academy measure for when you apply for the job. So, and those are posted, I guess, with the application. So if anyone's curious about that, 2 to 3 weeks before entering the academy, any applicant must pass, if they want to, this is for police cadet, it's 27 sit-ups in a minute, 15 push-ups in a minute, a 1.5 mile run in 15 minutes and 14 seconds, and a 300-meter run in under 71 seconds. So those are specific standards, and going forward, I'm thinking I'm going to try to clean up that yearly biennium language. And there's one thing to consider since we're talking about this policy is that not only just the language, if there's any room for improvement on that, but as I've been discussing, there's kind of this balancing between the fitness standards and manpower, is my understanding. The reason that the fitness standards no longer exist, based off what I've heard, is that, and are not routinely as an employment requirement, is to try to balance this, not filtering out too many people. So that's that, and so I will probably go forward recommending language change yearly biennium, but if you have any other.
I do actually, because I believe we do have the commander over training, I believe, here, correct, sir? Do you want to come up and I would love to hear your 2 cents on this, since that's your area, correct? Yes. Lieutenant, sorry, I thought it was good. That's a motion. Yeah, we just gave your promotion, 2 promotions to commander there. Sorry, Lieutenant. And then just do me a favor, just state your name and rank for the record, and then please feel free to chime in on this discussion here.
Yes, so I'm Lieutenant Sean Higdon. I'm the Professional Standards Lieutenant at the Academy.
Perfect. So with kind of the conversation around this physical assessment curriculum and scores and metrics, is there anything that you would like to add specifically, kind of in response to what the discussion is about?
Well, in regards to adding anything, I guess it would be outside of my wheelhouse to say that officers should be required to participate in a yearly physical fitness, to maintain their physical fitness. That has gone to the wayside. I don't know, I'd say probably within the last 5 to 10 years, it's no longer mandatory. So the people that do show up to it are those that pride themselves in staying physically fit. those that don't aren't required to show up. So kind of like he was explaining, it used to be during our annual training to keep our certifications that we would be scheduled to do it like prior to the classroom part of the day. Everybody would participate and there was, you know, if you couldn't run a mile and a half, the guys would, you know, usually walk a lap sometimes, you know. So, I mean, but everybody had to at least participate. That, like I said, has gone away, and I think that'd probably be up to the chief of police to determine whether it's something he wanted to implement again within our department.
No. Thank you, Lieutenant. I appreciate the insight and just being willing to speak on this. Board members, do you have any questions for the Lieutenant or for Mr. Reams here? Yes, sorry.
Perhaps I'm thinking of a different SOP, but weren't there some kind of incentives for doing, that's right, there's some kind of incentives for doing the physical. You get leave or you get...
Yes,
okay.
you get, it's bank, what's it called? Time to bank or something like that. It's essentially like comp time.
Okay.
So it's something that goes towards your time off that you can take.
Okay.
And so depending on your scores, you receive time off, which can add up to, I believe it's a total of 12 hours that you can get off if
Okay.
you max out with really good scores.
Okay.
Not the minimum scores that he read off. The minimum scores are just entry-level scores.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Mm-mm.
Do you want to take?
Thank you, Lieutenant. Appreciate that.
You're welcome. Hope I
Perfect.
helped.
So,
You did. Thank you.
Thank you. So, okay, so Mr.
So
Remer.
really just put that forward as a matter of consideration, since there was some, I knew I was gonna go forward with some kind of comment about that yearly biennium training. I brought it forward to you guys, and just because it was a good comment from the CPC, so I wanna incentivize that stuff, so I brought it forward to you guys. And any comments you guys have further on it will be taken.
I don't think there's any comments now on top of that. Obviously, they're valid points, right, to raise. I think once you create the language you want to submit, it'd be nice for us to see it. But since there's nothing for us to vote on, to look at or vote on, I don't think there's anything for us to vote on, correct? Chip?
Yeah.
Sure, okay. So council said no. So with that being said, we bless the process of this without formalities. Just keep us posted. Yeah, keep us posted.
Will do.
Thank you.
Yeah, something to keep an eye on.
Do you want me to go next one?
I'm sorry?
Do you want me to do this?
Sure, if you want.
Okay. So with that being said, that's the completion of all of our policies that we have for recommendation. We will be moving on to our no policy recommendation section, and I'm gonna shoot these ones off really fast. So there are no policy recommendations for SOP 1-19 Shield Unit, SOP 1-24 Burglary Unit, SOP 1-25 Chaplain Unit, SOP 1-35 Court Services Unit, SOP 1-85 formerly 6-2 Recruiting Unit, SOP 1-95 Metro Traffic Division, SOP 2-1 Uniforms, SOP 2-6 Use of Emergency Warning Equipment, SOP 2-9 formerly 1-37 Use of Computer Systems, SOP 2-21 Apparent Natural Death or Suicide of an Adult, SOP 2-29 formerly 5-4 from Child Exploitation Detail CED, SOP 2-85 Certificates of Evaluation, SOP 3-33 Performance Evaluations Management System PEMS, SOP 3-53 Self-Assessments. With that being said, all these policies were reviewed by CPOA and CPOA-B policy subcommittee group, and we had no recommendations for this for the board. With that, I stand.
Wonderful. Any other questions from the board members? Nope. Thank you, Mr. Reamer, and then thank you for the subcommittee for doing all the hard work, going through all those policies. We appreciate it. So with that, the next order of business is APD responses to policy recommendations, which is a standing item, and the one up is SOP 2-8, use of on-body recording devices. I assume still presented by Mr. Reamer.
Of course, absolutely, happy to. So there was two recommendations we put forward on this policy. The first had to do with the position of OBRD moving from belt line or from chest level only to belt line or chest level. And we put forward kind of our concerns with that, And those largely had to do with the basically field of view. And in certain instances, like traffic stops, certain conversations, not being able to see faces, and also in the potentially controversial or high stakes instances of getting the best view possible of OISs and uses of forces. Also putting forward the kind of pushbacks, because this has been a multi-week discussion, going back and forth with APD. Also some pushback that we've seen examples of, and there's the risk of beltline placement falling off as well, as APD largely used that as the primary reason for it moving down to beltline, because they've seen a lot of instances apparently of it falling off the chest or being knocked off. But to avoid reading this whole page, I'll just read APD's response with that summary of what we've already put forward. So APD's response is that they're implementing compromise optimal language. So regarding 284B1A, the policy to allow camera placement at the beltline above, the department has carefully considered the request to modify this policy. It is recognized that there are both benefits and drawbacks to placing the on-body recording device, OBRD, at various locations on the officer's body. The intent of the department is to ensure the best possible perspective is captured during incidents, providing clear and reliable evidence. However, achieving this can be challenging, depending on the specific circumstances and an activity involved in a given situation. Examples of issues that have arisen are weapon systems can inadvertently turn the OBRD off in certain situations, often during incidents where recordings are most critical, such as police shootings or other uses of force. Second, OBRDs have been falling off during a foot chase or being pulled off by resisting subjects during physical encounters. These are precisely the types of situations where video documentation is most valuable, both for the department in assessing use of force and for the city in the event of a tort claim. After review, it is agreed that there is no single camera placement that produces optimal results in all situations. To accommodate the wide spectrum of operational conditions faced by officers, the policy has been modified to allow limited flexibility in camera placement. This will enable officers to adjust positioning as needed to optimize evidence collection based on their training, experience, and the nature of their duties. The factors influencing OBRD placement are numerous and will vary by individual. Therefore, the department has determined that allowing some discretion within defined parameters is in the best interest of both quality evidence gathering and practicality for the user. Considering these factors, department leadership has approved the following changes. So it says location of OBRD, and then it's the uniformed personnel and many others shall wear department-issued OBRD while on duty. The OBRD shall be worn forward-facing at the belt line or above in a position intended to maximize the OBRD's ability to record. And the new language right here says optimal placement is recommended at chest level. So there's a lot of discussion on this one. I know from the investigators in the CPOA office aren't enthusiastic about this change. They do think it'll lead to harder to view perspectives. But I understand where the APD is coming from as well. As we discussed in the last board meeting, there is no perfect place, unfortunately. And so going forward, it's either, we can address this with the chief if we think it's something we really need to get ahead of, or it's something that the CPOA and you as well, when cases come across your schedule, to really track this. Keep a good eye on it and see if there is a negative impact from beltline placement, and a lot of officers are doing it, then that's something that we get as a data point so we can make a stronger argument in the future. And I leave it to you for whether to go through that, the chief option, or to just start the tracking now.
So my recommendation from the subcommittee policy group was to data track. Right, and the reason why is because obviously if we have data, we can able to prove our case in point. So I recommend that we stand by, collect data, and see how we receive our footage from cases and all the different stuff, how CPOA investigators receive their cases and from complaints and stuff like that. And once we have compiled enough, I think it will suffice us to be able to send a letter to the chief, and we can do this at any point, as well. So I think the data point's a sticking point for this one.
Yeah, I think that's a good call, and that's what I was going to agree with too. Is right. This is kind of a good compromise, saying optimal, because we all admit no good placement, and I think that too. We're allowing the interpretation to be optimal. Is hey, we said chest is optimal, so at least from a review committee from the CPOA, they can say it's in the policy that chest is optimal, so you weren't in there's a little bit of that, and then collect that data point, right? Got to collect, because then we can go to the chief. So exactly what you said. But the data, and then they can't really argue it. So no, I think that's good. Roll?
No, that sounds fine.
CPOA? CPOA, anything to add?
No, I think that you have to make an argument with the data backing it, and right now they've made the compromise that they're gonna make. So we, have already instituted in-house about how we're gonna collect that data and start keeping track of that. So, 6 months to a year, give or take, we'll have some better information to decide whether or not it's truly a problem or not. So, yeah, that's what we've already instituted.
That's awesome to hear that you guys have already figured out a way to do the tracking, and that's awesome. As a data nerd, as we all know, so I appreciate it. Anything else to add for this particular section?
Not for this one.
Not for this one. All right. I don't think we need to vote on it because it's just a response. So
great. On to the next. On to the second part. This one's really easy.
Oh, I thought you were. I know that's what I was going to do to the next recommendation. Man, dude, you were on me today. Sorry. Yeah, we're on to the next recommendation of. Now you got me all flustered. SOP-28, the use of on-body recording devices.
Yes, and this one pertains to 285C10A. And this to account for OBRD recording of searches with a warrant. And this was just the insertion of with in front of without, with or without a warrant for the vehicle search is entered until the search is concluded. This one was easy. This was probably just an oversight, but it's just ensuring that whether it's performed with or without a warrant, that those are being recorded. So that was good and easily fixed.
I'm happy. I mean, it was easy. It just agrees. Cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so thank you for doing the work on that one.
I appreciate it.
I appreciate you.
Yeah.
Thank you all.
Thank you, sir.
Any other things to add, CPOA, for the second half? Yeah, it was just easy. All right. Then the next order of business, not the next recommendation. The next order of business is other business. Is other business. I was right. So with that, I do want to kind of bring up what we talked about earlier. Is the next group we would like to have to kind of give us a presentation with greater detail of is Bomb Squad, kind of facilitating the same PowerPoint presentation that SWAT did for us. So we're just hoping to get a lot of that information and get presented to us and have a kind of an open forum with questions as well.
Can we just do the next the next cadence?
Okay.
So it's Bomb Squad, you want to do K9.
K9.
Can we do records?
Ooh, records.
Records?
Yeah, records.
With an APD records? Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure. I mean.
And I have a personal reason for that, not just myself, but I was a witness to a case and they went to court, and 2 months of court. And each time records failed to provide the evidence to the defendant.
So that's not technically records, that's a different.
The APD officer said it was APD's records that failed to do it, and even the judge reprimanded them on it. Either way, I want to hear records either way.
I'd have to look at the specific case to see on that one, but.
Yeah.
So what I would suggest though is, we'll take these kind of I don't want you to just like say, here's what I want for the next 3 meetings or whatever. So in this instant, if the next one that you want to hear from is the bomb squad, and if I understood kind of like based on the discussion we had at SWAT that you'd like just sort of an emphasis on some of the drone usage and things like that, that's what I'll advise the person in charge of that unit to provide and create a presentation for you. Like I said, it will probably be more like January just because of the holidays coming up.
Oh, please.
But if that's what you as board want, then we can facilitate that.
Yeah, that'd be great. And then I think on days, I think it'd be better for us. I don't know. I'm speaking for myself. For the board to try to do more afternoon evenings and not on a Monday, if at all possible. Because I think just for most of us work, so that's kind of.
Yeah, I know when we arranged for the SWAT, there was this providing of days and options and things like that. So I will reach out to whoever's, kind of in charge of that and say what days are options for you, or for them, and then compare it with what you have. It would probably have to be during business hours of some sort, maybe late afternoon, but it's not going to be able to be like after 5 or on a weekend or anything likely.
Yeah.
So
late afternoon's better.
Yeah, afternoon is more better. Yeah.
Please.
With all due respect to bombs, I think forensics is one I'd be interested in. I saw a presentation before, and it's quite fascinating, actually. So if you could put that down somewhere.
You think like the crime lab?
Yeah, crime labs.
Yeah, like I say, just kind of obviously in the back of your mind, and if you want this sort of as a rolling thing, that's
Yeah.
fine, you know,
Right.
so you made the request now, we'll have that, you know, in January. If you in December say wanna make a recommendation for whatever next unit you want, we can do that for free.
Yeah.
You know, so if you wanna just kinda
Yep.
keep it going, but I just can't
Keep a
have
running list, but do
all
it
of them
one at a
now
time.
and say, figure it out.
No, that's
What?
fine.
No.
Work on one at a time.
Yep.
Yeah.
For the record, though, I'm gonna put it so it's in the minutes. So, bomb is a request for January, if possible. Then it'll be K9, then records and crime lab. And then we can.
Then we go
how
from
we
there,
go.
yeah.
Then we can add more from
But at
there.
least we have a list
Yeah.
running.
Because without records, prosecution don't happen.
Yep, that's true. Yeah, Yep. All right.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else for other business?
No, sir.
I don't think we have to vote, we just had to request, right? Cool. With that, I can call this meeting to adjournment. The next regularly scheduled meeting will happen here on Thursday, December 11th, in 2025 at 5 p.m. So thank you all and have a great rest of your evening.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
perhaps a motion to adjourn?
Oh, I guess we should. I do make a motion to adjourn. Can I get a second?
I second that motion.
Thank you, Vice Chair Calderon. Ms. Perrella.
Ms. Padilla, can
Roll
I get a roll
call
call
vote.
vote, please?
Chair Bouillon,
Approved.
Member Budenaro,
Approved.
Vice Chair Calderon,
Approved.
Member Weimer.
Approved.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Vice Chair, the board, your meeting is adjourned.
Thank you, Ms. Perrella, and everyone
Oh,
have
your
a great
motion
rest
passed unanimously.
of. I appreciate it. Hope everyone has a great rest of the evening.